Hello, everybody. It's Friday, live at 5. This is Peter McLaughlin, and it's Blue Sky Hypnosis. Thank you for joining. Today, we're going to be talking about past life regression. This is, generally speaking, a pretty popular topic, and I find that because it's a key part of my practice, I do one-on-one hypnosis and life coaching, that it comes up a lot. And it's as I said, it's a sort of key part of my practice. Just a few disclaimers before we get going. I am not a psychotherapist, and I'm not a doctor. So if you have important psychological issues, go see your licensed medical counselors. If you have important medical issues, go see your doctor. If you have questions, see me. Talk to me about things that pertain to what we're talking about today, past life regression. Put it in the comments section, the chat bar. It's the back and forth that makes it so much more interesting than if it's just me kind of droning on. If you have suggestions for future live at 5s, please feel free to put those in the chat bar. Also to send me an email at peter@blueskyhypnosis.com. I see Estelle just joined us. Hello, Estelle. Good to see you. And without further ado, I guess the first thing I would jump into is past life real. So every time I do one of these lives, I make a list of bullet points of different sort of discussion topics that we can start the ball rolling. Ideally, it's the questions that come from you guys that really take over, from the bullet points and turn it into something way more dynamic. So first bullet point is past life regression real? In other words, do we really live past lifetimes, or is this just some kind of metaphor that our minds are making up? Our minds are very creative, and I don't think I can prove it to you, although I can get close. I would start with reincarnation, the whole concept that we return to this planet after we die in a previous lifetime and we come back here. So one of the first pieces of evidence, if you will, that I would talk about would be near-death experiences. You can look here on YouTube and find people, hundreds of people, if not more, testimonials of people talking about how they died in a clinical setting. No heartbeat, no breathing, no brainwaves, and they were dead for, clinically dead for 3 minutes or for 30 minutes or something like that. And then they were revived, and when they came back into their body, they remembered having an experience, some kind of a conscious experience while they were clinically dead. So this I think is a strong proof that our consciousness survives our physical death. And I think it kind of upends, if you will, this notion that we need a physical body in order to have consciousness. So it's not that much more of a leap to say, well, if my consciousness survives my physical death, then how much of a stretch would it be to imagine that consciousness reattaches to a fetus, to a baby, to be reincarnated again in another lifetime. I also believe that this helps to explain why we have certain weaknesses, why we have certain strengths when we're born, why we have certain abilities and proclivities and interests. You can have, we have 3 kids in our family, and they were all of the same mother and father, and they were all born into the same environment, and yet they all exhibit vast differences in these elements that I mentioned to you before that sort of make up our personality, our being. And what I would say is that we're bringing all of those attributes in with us. And those attributes then begin to express themselves, and we've probably done these things in a former lifetime. Which then leads into another point, but I'll get to that in a second, because I don't think I've finished on the whole, is past life regression real? Part of my journey has been to really call into question the nature of reality itself. So there have been a lot of philosophers since ancient times that say our dream life is more real than our waking life. That we are having a dream of this whole existence. And that when our physical bodies die, we kind of wake up. And we know for a fact that, like, when you go to the movies and you watch a movie and it's an action film, and and you feel your body beginning to respond as though you were in that car chase, as though people were shooting at you. In other words, you're gripping, the seat handles more tightly, and you get a rapid heartbeat, and you're dumping adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream. You may start perspiring under your arms. You may close your eyes when you don't want to see something. You may flinch. This is all happening based upon something that our conscious mind says isn't real. And yet another part of us is treating it as exactly real. There's the example of a musical composer. And the moment this composer has a melody in his head, I would say it's real at that point, even though you can't hear it. He can hear it, but no one else can hear it because it's in his head. You can't touch it. You can't watch the reactions of other people to this melody. But the alternative would be to say that when it's in his head, it's not real. But then when he writes it down on a piece of paper, or he plays it on a piano, that's when it becomes real. I don't think so. I think it's real when it's in the head. And ancient wisdom basically says, I'm referring to the Hermetic principles. The Kabbalion is the name of this book, that all is mind. That's the first principle that they teach. Everything is mind. In other words, that we created everything, and that we're sharing creation. So fiat currency, the dollar bills in your pocket, you could argue they're not real. The only thing that gives, because they, other than the paper, the value of the paper, there's no inherent value to those pieces of paper in your pocket. The only value is that we imagine that they have value. And people are willing to do all sorts of things for those pieces of paper, right? It's all kinds of crazy, heinous things for something that really, you could argue, it's only real because we say it's real. And tomorrow, if suddenly people said it's not real anymore, no one would care about them. The way they might care about, I don't know, a toothbrush or a shoe or something, or a banana. So hopefully that sort of gets to the point about is past life real? And I see Estelle might have a question here, so I want to just bring you in, Estelle. It's good to see you. If my parents in a past life controlled me, told me what to do, and I had to listen against my own will, and it's still recurring now in this life, would forgiveness in hypnosis be enough to end the cycle? My parents in the past life controlled me, told me what to do, and I had to listen against my will, and still recurring now in this life. Okay, so the short answer to your question is something is providing, you can think of it as energy to that dynamic, to your parents trying to control you against your will. And the place that I always want to look at when I'm working with clients is to look at the very first iteration. So that's, to the point you're making, could that have happened in a past life? Well, the answer to that is absolutely. And the other thing to think about is when we have a negative experience, when we have an experience we don't want to have, there's a couple of concepts that I think are worth considering. And one is based in the phrase, if you spot it, you got it. So if a lot of, anger is coming toward you, then it's likely that you have anger inside of you. And when you have an experience you don't want to have, it also is probably trying to teach you something. It's calling your attention to something. You can think of a rough experience, like in a relationship, for example, as pain. It's not, if there's no abuse, it's not physical pain. Somebody hasn't stuck a needle in your arm, but it's the equivalent of that, if you will. There's like psychic pain, there's emotional pain, and just like if somebody put a needle in your arm, they're trying to hurt you, and you felt the pain is telling you, hey, there's something there that needs attention. Pay attention to this thing, because that's what the pain is, its purpose is. So for you, Estelle, when you talk about your parents controlling you, I see that as pain. And I believe, it's calling your attention to something. Now, it could be that your parents have a spiritual contract with you to act in the role that they're acting in order for you to, for example, find your own independence, to be able to use your voice and speak up, to find courage in your life. And again, I'm making this up because we've never worked with each other one-to-one. But I would definitely suggest that you start asking the question, why am I having this experience? What is it trying to teach me? What is it inside of me that's a match, like a Velcro cushion and a Velcro ball, and you throw the ball against the cushion and it sticks because they're a match for each other. What about you is a match for this controlling behavior? Are you going through karma? Did you harm someone in a past lifetime by controlling them? And now, in order to understand this at the deepest spiritual levels, it's important for you to go through this experience. Well, regardless of those speculations of mine, you can find the origin of when this dynamic was created. You can determine if you have a karmic relationship, for example, with your parents. You can determine if you have spiritual contracts with your parents. And if you do, then you can start to work through that. And that usually involves some kind of healing. And, as people are probably tired of hearing me say this, but I have a video on my channel, on my YouTube channel, Blue Sky Hypnosis, and it teaches you how to use a pendulum. This is an idiomotor tool that can give you a yes/no answer. It kind of comes from your intuition. It comes from your gut. It's enormously powerful. I use it with every one of my clients, and it's almost like a diagnostic tool that can get you right to, oh yeah, the person has a broken bone, bring him into surgery, we're going to have to operate on that, or we're going to just need to set it because they've got this diagnostic picture that lets them know what to do next. So that would be the next step that I would suggest for you. Thanks for asking the question. How can I use past life regression in my present life? So Estelle, you kind of teed that up beautifully because you were asking, in my present life, I'm dealing with this controlling behavior by my parents. If that occurred in a past lifetime, and you were able to go back to that past lifetime, and you could understand what's going on here, because maybe the roles are reversed. Maybe you are like, you're one of those people with a whip on a slave ship, and your parents are rowing in the galley, and you're controlling every aspect of their life. Well, that then could be karma. So here's a way, by going into the past lifetime, that you can go from scene to scene, and you can see what's happening and really understand your role in things and the dynamics of what's going on, which then informs you as to how it's related to your present life, and then what you would need to do in order to heal that. So let me give you all an illustration from my own life. Last summer, I was doing some work, like psychological work, and I found out that I had this need to basically be responsible for other people, and used my pendulum. I could feel something kind of welling up inside of me, and so I sat in my hypnosis chair and I put myself in hypnosis, and I went into a past lifetime, and immediately I found myself on a battlefield in summer. Grass was green. It's like in the Middle Ages, so there's armor and there's swords and axes and spears and shields, and I can hear the clanging and the people screaming and shouting and just the kind of the movement of large groups of men. And I was in the thick of this battle, and all of a sudden I got a spear that went into the center of my chest, and I fell backwards, and the next thing I knew, I was rolling down this hill with all of this green grass. And I came to a rest at the bottom of the hill, and I was looking up at the sky, and I was dying, and I was feeling like I had failed. I was feeling like I hadn't done enough. And the next scene of that regression was, so the first scene was definitely a past lifetime scene, but the next scene was a spiritual scene. So from dying in that past lifetime, the next scene I went to was a spiritual scene after I had died. And I came upon, I was confronted by 3 or 4 very small children, and they were wearing these white gowns, and a woman, a short, petite woman, who was also dressed in something kind of similar. And as soon as I saw them, this is what's so amazing to me. One of the things that's so amazing to me about past life regression. As soon as I saw them, I immediately, boom, I just burst into tears. And I didn't recognize any of them. Right? So my conscious mind, even though I'm in hypnosis, it's still awake. I'm not asleep. But I've shifted into this different state of awareness that we call hypnosis. And when that happens, the subconscious mind kind of comes forward. It opens up and it comes forward, and you have access to information that you don't have in a sort of a conscious, what we call fully conscious beta state of consciousness awareness. So as soon as I see these children and this woman, I burst into tears, and my conscious mind is going, "What's going on? Why am I exploding into sadness?" I'm talking about like racking sobs that went on for maybe 20 minutes. And I just kept saying to them, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And it's so weird because there's part of my mind going, "Why are you telling them you're sorry?" And another part of me that knows exactly why I'm telling them I'm sorry. And what I came to realize is that I was fighting for them, and I lost. And because I lost, they suffered. And I was carrying around this tremendous guilt from a past lifetime that I brought into this lifetime, which translated into this subconscious need to help other people, but not just help, not like, "Hey, can I help you?" It was to be responsible. It's a better way of saying it. To be responsible for other people. And as I was apologizing to them, they just all kept saying, "We don't hold anything against you." And I said, but I was fighting so hard, and I didn't. And they said, "You couldn't have done any more." But I could. And they said, "You died while fighting. What else could you have done?" And there was this other part of me that just went, "Huh, that's right." There was nothing else I could do. And so I still apologized to them, and they said, "You are forgiven. You're forgiven." And my past life self was reunited with them, with his family, and they went off into the light together. And I mean, because it was me, I can explain to you what effect that had on me, which was profound. I didn't feel the same degree of tension in my life. Things that used to piss me off weren't pissing me off as much anymore. I felt like I could really relax. And I feel like even to this day, I can still remind myself, I'm not responsible for this. I can help if I want to, but I'm not responsible. It's not my fault. And what a psychotherapist pointed out to me is that if you're responsible for other people, you have to be right, because the consequences of you being wrong is that they get harmed. But if you're not responsible for other people, you don't have to be right. And so one of the areas I've seen this show up in my life is when there's a debate or an argument or something, I'm not as invested in it as I used to be. I feel a bit more calm about the argument. I don't feel as though I have to win this argument. I have to persuade the other person of what I'm trying to communicate. So hopefully that kind of helps you understand, and there's a myriad examples of how you can use past life regression to influence your present life. All right, let's see who else is here and what other questions we may have. Hey, there's Danielle. Hello, Danielle. She's from Aotearoa, which I think is New Zealand. Glad to see you here. Kristen Hubbard. Good to see you, Kristen. I'm glad you're here too. Nicole P., shout out to you. Here is Just Me Pee-wee. Okay, so this is an awesome point that you're making here, Just Me, and I'm glad you posted this, which says, I'd love to have this done, but there's no way I could afford it. So that basically tees up another one of my bullet points, thank you, which is there a difference between a recorded version of a past life regression session and a live one? Well, the recorded past life regression sessions are on my channel. If you're interested and you don't want to spend any money whatsoever, you can go onto YouTube and you could select one of the handful of past life regression tracks that I have. And please subscribe if you haven't already, Blue Sky Hypnosis. That will take you through the process of a hypnotic induction, and then it will bring you into the past lifetime, and it will then take you to different scenes of that past lifetime. Generally speaking, it's organized around, go to the best day of that life, go to the worst day of that life, go to a significant relationship of that life, go to a scene that will let you know what kind of work you did, that sort of thing. And then it will bring you back out. So you can read the comments, and plenty of people have really amazing sessions doing past life regression with a recorded version of it. Now, what is the difference between the recorded version and the live? Well, when you're working one-on-one in live, it can be customized to you. So, I get to know who you are, what you want to achieve, what you don't want any more of, key relationships in your life, these sorts of things. Any physical issues that you may have that may be tied in with something that happened in the past. And then the session is geared and oriented towards you. Okay, so that's one big difference. Another big difference is that in a live session, the client is actually telling me, they're communicating with me what is going on. So they might say, I'm standing in a field, and I've got a sword in my hand, and I got a shield in the other hand, and there's a battle going on. And then I can ask them questions, and they can go deeper into that scene, as opposed to me just kind of, generically imagining, okay, go to the best life. There's not a lot of follow-up that can be done because I'm not getting any feedback. Then the other thing is that we can walk through the kind of healing aspects of the past life regression, kind of like I gave you the example of when I encountered my family from a past life, and I was carrying all this guilt because I was killed in the battle. I wasn't able to protect them, and they were harmed as a result of this. I could walk a person, if that had happened to them, I could walk them through that healing process, and it's all at that point, it's based on this give and take, based on what they're saying. Because what if they said, yeah, we're not going to forgive you? We would want to know that in terms of making it as effective as possible. However, given that the recordings on YouTube are free, and that many people actually have significant benefits by doing that, it makes sense to just kind of try it out and see what you think. Now, the other thing that can help with a live session is that people will it's not uncommon for people to have some kind of a subconscious block to going into a past lifetime. And that's usually a fear-based block. And the fear is essentially this. The job of your subconscious mind is to protect you. And it knows where you're going because it lived in that lifetime. Your conscious mind didn't, but your subconscious did. Your body didn't, but your subconscious did. So it knows where you're going. And maybe over a long period of time, it's been keeping that traumatic experience suppressed because it doesn't want that to come to conscious awareness, because then you could become upset. But the problem with suppressing or repressing something is that you're not getting rid of it. It's like keeping rotten meat in your food pantry. You keep the door closed, but now you can't use the pantry. Every time you walk by it, you get a stink. You know what I'm saying? So in my opinion, it's always good to exercise these old toxic emotions that we're holding on to. Obviously, if you're in sound mind and body, you wouldn't want to do this if a person didn't have a sound mind. And I don't recommend this for children. I did it with my children, but I don't recommend it with other people's children, which actually sort of can lead us into the next thing, which is there any danger in past life regression? Before I do that, I want to see if there's any other comments here or questions. But thanks for that, Just Me, Pee-wee. Appreciate it. Here is Tina Luck. Hello, Tina. Says, does this, meaning past life regression, lead to a lot of deja vu episodes? I can't say that I've had that experience, or I can't say that I've had that feedback. So certain things can definitely lead to a past life regression. So a particularly vivid dream of a past life could lead you into a past life regression. meeting someone and you feel like, I feel like I've known you my whole life, and I'm just meeting you for the first time. I've known you before. And you can use past life regression to go back to an earlier lifetime, perhaps, where you did know this person, and then you understand what the context of the relationship was. So yeah, not in my experience. So I'm just giving you my answer from my limited experience. I mean, I've been doing it for 16 years, but I'm just one guy. That I don't think it leads to more deja vu, but that's just what I've seen. All right, let's see what else we have here. Thanks for that, Tina. Okay, so here's I'm the soul. I'm having dreams so real, and was very weird events and characters as if I'm living in multiple lives. All right, so dream analysis and dream investigation is a really big part of my practice. It's one of those areas that I'm always checking in with my clients, especially my clients who buy a package and they come see me, multiple sessions. So each new session, what's new since the last time? The things we're working on. Any one of them any better? Any one of them any worse? All pretty much the same. What's going on? And did you have, any strange dreams since last we met? Now, curiously, oftentimes people will have a dream the night before a session, or they'll have it the morning of the session, so it's like fresh in their mind. And we can use spiritual hypnosis, we can use the pendulum, we can use both to essentially go back into that dream and understand what the meaning of the dream is if it's not already clear. Because I've been doing this for a long time, so lots of times I feel like I can kind of see and understand what the meaning of the dream is. Sometimes often when there's an animal, for example, in the dream, I will quickly look up and just say, what's the spiritual meaning of a pigeon? And it's amazing how often the spiritual meaning of that animal that they just had in their dream fits perfectly with what's going on in their life. It's absolutely fascinating. But so yeah, I mean, for you could use the pendulum again, and you could ask the question: is the dream I'm having, or is the dream I had, is it a metaphor trying to communicate with me, trying to tell me something that I need to know? Is it an actual experience that I had in another, say, parallel reality? Is it an experience that I had in a past lifetime? Is it an acid trip I had in my former lifetime when I was a hippie in the 1960s? I mean, all of those are possible, and with a pendulum, you can get to those answers pretty fast. And then from there, you can determine, what do you want to do? If it wasn't a past lifetime, do you want to go into it? If it's a metaphor, you might dig deeper into the meaning of that metaphor. But thank you for asking the question. Okay, Kristen Hubbard says, I'm wondering if I was an alcoholic in my past lifetime because I drink alcoholic like I am a wannabe alcoholic. Could you tell me what to do? So my general approach to addictions is the addictive substance or the addictive behavior is behaving like a drug. It's giving you a kind of numbing effect. It's giving you something temporarily that is allowing you to step out of a painful situation. So it could be that you're suffering from grief. It could be that you're suffering from loneliness. It could be that you're suffering from low self-esteem. And when you drink the alcohol, it's like for a short period of time, you're sort of free of that because the drug has sort of, had this effect on your mind that takes you away from ruminating about that. And when your mind isn't on the thing that's causing you distress, your body is able to go back to a state of relaxation. So that is how I would approach that. You could use a pendulum and just try to isolate. Am I drinking because I'm lonely? Am I drinking because when I drink, I feel the presence of my grandmother who died 10 years ago? Am I drinking because I have too much stress in my life? Am I drinking because I'm afraid of making a big change that I need to make? Am I drinking because I have low self-esteem, low self-love, low self-worth? So you can kind of pinpoint it with that tool. And again, that's on my YouTube channel, Blue Sky Hypnosis. Subscribe if you haven't. And it's just type in the word pendulum on my channel, and that explanation video, the instruction video, it's only like 7 or 8 minutes long, will come up, and that'll teach you how to use that pendulum. Super good tool. All right, thanks, Kristen, for asking the question. Here is Estelle, and she says, I've seen the past life with the help of your regressions. Cool. So that was the online regressions, obviously. They married me off to someone I did not want, and in this life, they're still trying to control me, just in different ways now. Okay. Well, awesome that you already have this awareness, you already have this experience, you already have this understanding, and let that be an inspiration to other people, that you can do this too. You can go to the channel and you can start checking out that content. The next thing for you, Estelle, as I mentioned before, would be to determine, and the fastest way to determine that I'm aware of is, unless you do muscle testing, is to use a pendulum, and ask, do I have a karmic relationship with one or both of my parents? And that would be the law of cause and effect. So maybe at an even earlier lifetime, you did something controlling to them, and now you're going to keep having this experience until you learn from the experience and you atone for it, and you don't, you now energetically are not a match for that. The other thing you could ask is, do I have a spiritual contract with one or both of my parents? And if you get a yes on that, you can ask, is their part of the contract to be controlling of me? If the answer is yes, you would then want to figure out, okay, so why is it important from a spiritual perspective for my parents to be controlling of me? And that's probably going to lead you to something like, because it's supposed to bring forth from me a fierce spirit of independence, an ability to go my own way, an ability to speak up and to speak my truth, an ability to be courageous and brave. It's probably going to be something like that if there's a spiritual contract with them. So, let us know. Let us know what you find out. And if you have any other questions, if you get stuck, just reach out to me and I'll help if I can, okay? But thanks for asking. This one says, did you or your wife ever have a past life together in any of your sessions? There have been people that I've known who've had close people around them in their past lives, their past lifetimes. For me, I've met with people that I know in spiritual regression, but not my wife in a past life regression. And part of that is I don't think I've actually wanted to know. I didn't recognize the woman in the past lifetime, in the medieval times when I was killed. And I didn't choose to probe it any further at that point, but I didn't recognize her. Oftentimes people will have one person, sometimes two, in a whole past life regression that they recognize from their present life. And it could be one of their children, it could be a spouse, it could be a friend, it could be someone from this lifetime who died a while ago, it could be a grandparent, but usually in a different role. Like a child in this lifetime could be a brother, for example, in a past life, or a child in this lifetime could be a parent in an earlier lifetime. So that certainly does happen, but not specific to me based on the ones that I've done. Thank you for asking. All right, so next question is there any danger to doing past life regression? This question does get asked on the YouTube channel from time to time, and the question I ask back always is, what are you afraid of? Because it's hard to answer the question. I can take a guess at it, but especially when you're typing, it's hard to answer the question if I don't know exactly what they're afraid of. And sometimes people are afraid of hypnosis. They're afraid that they'll get stuck in hypnosis and not be able to come back. Other people are afraid of trauma in a past lifetime, that something really bad happened to them. And it often does. I mean, you could be hanged, or you could be killed in a battle, or somebody could desert you, leave you. you could feel some kind of guilt and shame for something you did. And that's another category is what if I find out that I did something heinous in a past lifetime? That's a big thing that people are frightened of. And my answer to that one is, you are not defined by who you are in this life from a spiritual sense, right? Your name isn't your permanent name. Your body's not your permanent body. Your age is not your permanent age. It's the example that I give, or the metaphor that I give is metaphor or an analogy? Maybe it's an analogy that you are an actor. The pure consciousness part of you, the part of you that has always existed, the part of you that can't die because you're just pure energy and consciousness. And that part of you has a name. It has a spirit name. And that part of you is like the actor. And every time you incarnate into a lifetime, it's like an actor taking on a different role before they get on the stage or before they shoot a movie. And just like actors, no actor is defined by any one role they played. Each actor is informed by each role he or she plays. It informs them. It helps them to grow as an actor. It helps them to grow as a person and perhaps even as a spirit. But it doesn't define them. And so if you find a past life where you did something heinous, what's important is to recognize, first of all, that you're still in this life, even though an aspect of you is in the past life. And then we want to atone for whatever it is that you did. So if you did something heinous, it means that you harmed other people. So we would want to find those people in that past lifetime and ask for their forgiveness. And some people are willing to grant their forgiveness and other people are not. They will be at some point, but they're not right now. But it almost doesn't matter if the forgiveness is sincere. And then maybe even understand why you did this heinous thing. What kind of pain were you in? You know, were you beaten as a child? Were you in a state of poverty? You know, what was going on for you? That we can then work on that element as well, because that can also transfer to you in the present life. And once this earlier lifetime has been put to rest through atonement and through healing, and we know that past life self is now free, we can let them go into the light, which also frees you. And we can also give instructions to have any residue of that life, any painful or dark residue of that life, also cleansed. So hopefully that makes sense. And back to the I guess any danger from a past lifetime. I'm not sure if there's anything else. If anybody else can think of something that they might consider dangerous, apart from what I've already talked about, which is hypnosis itself, getting stuck, seeing something, you know, that would be horrifying to think, oh my God, I did that. Or just the trauma, just going back to a trauma. And I guess I should probably explain that quickly. So if you go to a past lifetime where you're being marched up onto a scaffold and you're going to be hanged, which does happen. Part of you, as I was saying when I was describing earlier in this broadcast, my past life regression experience where I was killed in battle, part of you knows that you're in the comfort of your home, that you're on a Zoom call with me, that you're in my office or something. And another part of you is fully in the past life. So it's never like, oh my God, I'm completely gone. It's never like, oh my God, I'm totally under the influence of this psychedelic drug and I can't stop it until it wears off. You have way more agency. You have way more awareness that you are inherently safe. So, as I said, if anybody else has any other fears around past life regression, just ask them in the chat bar and I'll see if we can answer those for you. Let's see, scrolling down. Here's Chihuahua. Good to see you here. Marcella Ort. Hello, Marcella. I'm happy you're back too. It's good to see your name here. Here's Tina Luck. Tina Luck says, is there anything that can help getting into a deeper state of hypnosis? Okay, so with respect to past life regression, it is my experience over 16 years that you don't have to be in a super deep state of hypnosis. What's really important is that we make sure that you don't have any blocks to going into a past life, and that's usually something based around fear. You can use your pendulum to determine if you have any blocks and what kind of blocks they are. Once a person's in a past lifetime and they start experiencing it, they will naturally go deeper. Now, this isn't to say that in the hypnotic induction phase, when we're starting past life regression, we don't use hypnotic deepeners. We do, as a matter of course. And there are different techniques to do that. Countdowns are very famous, 10, 9, 8, 7, and along with the hypnotic patter, that could be a command or it could be more passive, which is your arms and legs are getting heavier and heavier, or notice if your arms and legs are getting heavier. Is one heavier than the other? And you're bringing a person's attention inward, which is helping them to go deeper. And when you make a suggestion and a person's in hypnosis, generally speaking, the subconscious mind follows that suggestion and the legs and the arms become deeper. Each time you gently breathe, each time you have a gentle beat of your heart, it reminds your subconscious mind that you're safe. And because you're safe, you go deeper each time your heart beats, each time you breathe. These are also other kinds of deepeners. So hopefully that answered your question. All right. Tina Luck. Thanks, Tina. Raquel Figueroa. Good to see you here. And good to see you too, Joyce Shaw. Happy Friday. Sarah Landwehr. Super happy I caught this live. I'm glad you did too. Glad you're here. Raquel Figueroa. Hi, Peter. Have you done a past life regression for yourself? Yes. And I talked about one of the recent ones that I did. I think it was last summer, earlier in this broadcast. So if you want to watch this later, because it's saved on my channel, Blue Sky Hypnosis, subscribe if you haven't. You can do that, and you can, I give a kind of a whole description of this past lifetime where I was in a medieval battle and where I encountered small children and a wife from this former lifetime, and I burst out into tears. So if you're interested in hearing more about that story, about a PLR that I did, I guided myself into it, then you can rewind the tape when this broadcast is over at 6 o'clock Eastern. Okay, thank you for asking. Oh yeah, and she says too here, so if so, what did you find out? So I go over that as well in the description earlier in this broadcast, that I was feeling subconsciously responsible for people. It was causing a lot of tension. It was causing me to need to be right in my, like if I had an argument or a debate with someone, and that's heavily dissipated since that regression, which was very powerful. All right. Here is 30-Day Jeff. Any chance you can drop a link or two of your favorite recorded regression videos? I think the newer ones, well, I don't know. I mean, they're all, honestly, I like, in general with my tracks, some of the ones that I've done in the past couple of years, I tend to like better than ones that I've done 5 or 6 years ago, just because anytime you do something more and more, you get better at it. I do think that I haven't listened to it in a long time, but I think that the sort of flagship past life regression video that I have on my YouTube channel, it gets the most traction of all of them. I mean, I have a new one called Advanced Past Life Regression that doesn't go through the instructions. And if you've already done PLR before, you might try that one. But yeah, give it a shot. I think I'm confident with all of them. There's one where you meet your spirit guide first, and then you do the past life regression. And I really like that one for beginners because it's not as, you're avoiding a lot of the trauma that might be associated with, hey, go right back into a past life by meeting with the guide first. So sometimes people will write in and they'll say, I don't know what happened, but when I started doing the recording, I was getting really, really relaxed. And then I just felt this horrible fear come over me. And that's because the subconscious mind knows where it's about to take you. And it's like, put on the brakes. So for those people, I suggest do the one where you meet the spirit guide first, and then you go into the past life regression, because now you've had this opportunity in this different realm to be with your guide, who's going to feel like a person that you know very well, even if you can't remember them. Hopefully that makes sense. And you feel really comfortable with them. So that's another thing to consider. All right, cool. Thanks for asking. Here is, I'm just going to jump down to I'm the Soul. I learned to use the pendulum from your videos. Is there anything special preparation before using for dream interpretation? Probably not beyond what I teach people in the video. So one of the things, just for everybody else, that I teach in the video is to calibrate your pendulum. So before you use it each time, you just say, show me yes, show me no, show me maybe. Most people don't do the maybe, but that's an important motion to have when you start asking the questions. And then, is my higher self controlling this pendulum fully and completely for my greatest and highest good? We want to make sure that an entity, a spiritual entity, hasn't attached to you and they're controlling the pendulum. And then we have you ask a question you already know the answer to, like, is my body currently seated in a chair? Am I a 798-pound Caucasian female? You would hope I would get a no to that question. If you don't, you know you have a problem and you can't proceed until you fix that. So those are preparations. The other thing, and I'm glad you asked this. Let me put this back up again. Because this just occurred to me only based on your question, which is an awesome question, on the preparation. Before you roll into this, it might be wise to write down the questions, to sketch out the dream for yourself. Like, I was in a high school auditorium and there was an elephant up on the stage, and, my old English teacher, Mr. Jones, was dressed like a clown, and blah, 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 blah. So you just write out all the elements. And then you can go and research and say, okay, what's the spiritual meaning of an elephant? That might just unlock the dream for you right there. Because you've got sort of like a high school auditorium is kind of like performance. It's being back in school. And if the elephant means, then all of it may come together for you. But writing it out, doing a little bit of research, and then writing down the questions could be useful for you, so that you're not having to come up with the questions on the fly. You've already sketched them out. And that doesn't mean that you can't ask a question that's not on your little sheet of paper, but it can help you in the moment be a little bit more complete and a little bit more informed and a little bit more prepared. So thank you for asking the question, because this is an example of where the questions people ask help to lead me into places that I wouldn't have gone on my own if it was just, me just talking. So cool. Thanks for asking, and good luck. Here is Dolores. Hello, Dolores. The older I get, the more aware of something I'm becoming. Perhaps it's the wisdom of a life coming to an end, although I'm not that old. But new awakenings seem to be happening, such as this channel, etc. Yeah, Dolores, I feel like I can completely relate with what you're saying, because I'm getting older too. And I mean, I think the more you do of anything, kind of the sharper your skills become. The more dream interpretation you do, the better at it you get. Like, the more you are a carpenter, the better at that you get. And I think there is something about getting older where you start facing your own mortality. And when you've been around a long time, let's face it, you've had a lot of experiences, so have I. And I think we start having experiences like our parents may pass away or friends may die, and you start thinking about your own mortality and your relationship to the universe, your relationship to your creator, your relationship to the divine. And I know that for me, all of these elements, perhaps the way it is for you, is helping me to be more open to these concepts. The pain that we feel in our lives, if you live long enough, right, you're going to feel all kinds of pain. To be able to turn to something that isn't strictly on the physical plane. I'm not saying that there isn't help for you there is, but to be able to turn beyond that. It also is the case for people who've suffered a lot, not always older people. If a person suffered a lot of pain then they're more apt to be open to things that otherwise they wouldn't be open to. And I think that that's a really huge piece, is the willingness, is the openness. All right, thanks for that, Dolores. Here is Kristen. Kristen says, I feel really guilty about the way I act with my feelings. I'm wondering if I was abusive in my past life because I'm yelling and being rude to my mom still. I need help. Okay, so we need to understand, and maybe you could use a pendulum for this, but we need to understand if you're yelling at her, which is anger. Anger is a defensive response against the perception that something of value has been taken from you. So the next question would be, what of value has and is your mother taking from you? You can get a long way down the road with the pendulum, including finding out if your issues with her began in a past lifetime. You know, maybe you were the mom in a past lifetime and you were kind of nasty to her. Maybe you were a sister, maybe you were an employer, maybe you were an executioner, who knows? But it would be useful to figure out if the conflict between the two of you and your fear of having something valuable taken from you is something that was created in a past life, or if it was created earlier in this life. And if it was created earlier in this life, was it created before the age of 15? Was it created before the age of 10? Was it created after the age of 25? And so on. Pinpoint the timing. And you might go, oh, it's when such and such happened. I just did some of this work yesterday. I was doing some trauma reversal work, and I used my pendulum to figure out, okay, I have a sense that I have a trauma back there, but is it that one? Pendulum goes, no. Oh, okay. Is it that one? Nope. Is it this one? Yep. And I couldn't remember the actual scene, but it told me I was 3 years old, and it told me what the trauma was. And so I was able to go back using hypnotic regression. And as soon as I went back, it's everything came alive. I thought, oh, I'm in this house, I'm in this room. Here's the person that's hitting me, and here's the pain that I feel. And I was able to then work through that and resolve it. But I used the pendulum to really help tee it up for me. So hopefully that helps you, Kristen. Good luck to you. Here is Nicole. Hello, Nicole. Nicole says, I had a friend of 22 years who passed away in October. But when she was here with me, I can't explain in words our connection. I know we knew each other in a past life. I don't even remember meeting her. Yeah, those are such cool experiences, aren't they? They're really awesome. And just so you know, on my channel, I do have a video that's designed for dealing with grief for the loss of a loved one. I also have one dealing with grief for the loss of a pet. And what I have found is that, and you didn't say grief in there, but I'm just kind of assuming that you miss her because she was so close to you, that you can essentially, back in your consciousness, kind of the way you go into a past life or past lifetime, you can go into a I don't know if you'd call it a liminal space, where you can meet with, your consciousness can meet with her consciousness, and it walks you through this whole process. And the idea there is to really connect with this loved one who's passed in physical body, and by doing this, it definitely helps to diminish, if not remove, the grief. And you can use the pendulum again and say, did I meet Cindy? Did we first meet each other? Did we live past lifetimes together, as I guess a better way of asking it? And then you could say, is it in my highest and best interests to visit one of those past lifetimes with her? And if you get a yes to that and you want to do it, you could go into that past lifetime and you could notice what's happening and what are the circumstances of knowing each other, and then probably shed a lot of light on what your relationship was like in this life. So the first thing I'd recommend for you is the one on grief, meeting a loved one who's deceased, and then consider using the pendulum, and then consider doing a past life. So thank you for sharing that. we're almost out of time for today, but before we go, and I want to take at least one other question, I just want to talk briefly about next week, because next Friday I'm going to be doing a broadcast on life purpose. So one of the big things that people will have an interest in is to answer the question, why am I here? What's my purpose? Why did I come to this place? And it seems like one of those things, before you are familiar with this work, that how would I ever answer that? But you can. And it's by using spiritual hypnosis, meaning your spirit guide, your spirit council, the Akashic record, the pre-life planning session, understanding spiritual contracts and so forth, where you can ask these questions. You can say, what lesson, that's how I like to ask it, what lesson did I come here to learn? And get the answer. And then you can say, how many lifetimes have I been working on that? And so on. So next Friday, on the 27th, we'll be doing, excuse me, spiritual hypnosis for life purpose. Sorry about that. All right, let's see if we have one or maybe two more. Where are you? Reading glasses? There you are. Oh, interesting. Chihuahua says, I have a strong feeling that my son is my father's soul. You can definitely investigate that, and it's very possible. I see things like this all the time. That is very, very possible. And sometimes the child is giving you information that there's no other way they could have that information. I'm not saying that's the case with your son, but maybe, because that does come up. Let's see. Here is Happy Mom. She says, new here, thank you, but perhaps concerned about opening up phobias or exacerbating phobias from past lives in this life. I have not seen that. The best analogy I can give you is a splinter in your foot. Someone saying, oh, I got a splinter in my foot. Every time I step on it, it hurts. But I don't know, I'm not a surgeon. And if I get a needle and sterilize it and I start poking around in there, it's going to hurt like hell. All true. And when you pull the splinter out, it's like, oh, that feels really good. And now this underlying wound has healed. So for whatever it's worth, and again, I'm just one guy doing this for 16 years, but I have never seen a situation where after the session was over, the person had enhanced phobias, or they now had a new phobia. That's never happened. I have seen the other hundreds and hundreds of times where a phobia is now gone, or a phobia is now diminished because we resolved it, partially or fully. These things have their origin somewhere, and it's like a splinter in your mind. And I say, you got to get the splinter out, even though it kind of hurts, because in full disclosure and full honesty, when you're in the middle of a regression and something intense and painful is happening, like what I described earlier in today's broadcast about my past life regression, the most recent one, I burst into tears. I wasn't crying before I started the past life regression, but I also felt incredible relief when it was over. And I still am accruing the benefits of releasing an old trauma, healing an old trauma. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Thanks for asking the question. All right, we'll do one more. Just scrolling down to see if there's, oh yeah, here is I'm just looking for a new person, and here's Doris Shad. Hello, Doris. Hi, I'm new here. I'm wondering in general, what's the purpose of knowing about our life? Well, I guess, Doris, it would depend upon what question you were asking. So if you just thought, your cousin Rick hates you and you never did anything to him and you want to have a good relationship with him, it might make sense to find out, where did this hatred begin? Were you an SS guard in World War II and he was a prisoner? Were you an executioner and he was somebody being executed? Did you swindle him in a past lifetime? Did you kill him in battle? Did you leave him at the altar when he was a woman or when you were a woman? If you find that out and you resolve it, it's remarkable, I still think it's remarkable, that so often the relationship in this life improves. So there's a million other examples with your finances, with relationships, with your physical health, where you can actually remove obstacles, understand things better about who you really are and why you are the way you are, and even change certain things for the better. So that would be my quick answer to your really good, important, but very broad question. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And we're just at an hour right now. So thank you so much for joining me, guys, for this Live at 5. We're going to be doing the Live at 5 next Friday, Live at 5 Eastern. I'll be sending out an email. If you're not on the email list, please consider joining. The email list is right in the description of this video, which is captured on my YouTube channel under Live, and it remains there for quite some time unless I delete it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, if you haven't tried the content, please consider doing that. Blue Sky Hypnosis. And I will look forward to seeing you next Friday Live at 5. Have an awesome weekend. Bye.